Well, it's the start of a new year. It's still January, and lots of people are giving up on their New Year's resolutions. And so I thought it'd be really good to check in with Leanne Monaghan, who is one of the most inspirational people I've had the opportunity of meeting and interacting with over the course of the last couple of years doing this radio show. And she's written some books. She runs a coaching business, and she runs a yoga studio in Acton. It's worth the drive to Acton to meet Leanne. And she's got a really inspirational outlook to how we should be thinking about changing ourselves for the new year. And she's got a series of workshops that she calls Meet the Genius in You, which sounds like a song. Leanne Monaghan, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you for the opportunity.
My pleasure. Now, what's the name of the yoga studio?
It's called Staying Alive Fitness.
Staying Alive Fitness. And your coaching business is?
Leanne Monaghan Coaching, Peak Performance Coach.
And you were telling me just before we started that you actually got a quote from the Bible that you thought was really helpful in understanding how we should be setting ourselves up for the most positive possible change in 2025. Tell me a little bit about that, please.
Okay, so this quote is actually from a book that I study a lot in the personal development space, and it's Psychocybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. So Maxwell Maltz was a plastic surgeon, and so he wrote this book about self-image after operating on thousands of people, and he noticed some of them changed and some of them didn't, despite the fact that they had this incredible plastic surgery to fix something. So he writes in his book, Jesus warned us about the folly of putting a patch of new material on an old garment, or of putting new wine in an old bottle. Positive thinking cannot be used effectively as a patch or a crutch to the same self-image, to the same old self-image. And Brian, what that means for me, whenever, at the club, at the studio, this is one of the busiest times of the year. And people are coming in, this is the year I'm going to, exercise, I'm going to change my eating. But to this quote, the folly is that they are putting a patch of new material on an old garment. So their way of thinking and their self-image, and this has been embedded for some people since they were, a teenager: lose weight, gain weight, exercise, don't exercise. I'm on the wagon, I'm off the wagon. So this old self-image is like a program that's running the show. All right, it's like the thermostat, that's where they're set. And it can be below the surface. Some people aren't even consciously aware that this is what's happening. So they come in and they buy the membership, they get the personal training, they take the classes, but that's the folly of putting a patch of new material. So this is the way they think that they want to be. These are the goals that they want to have on an old garment.
And statistics are that by the third week of January, the vast majority of people have broken their resolutions or given up.
That's correct. That's correct. According to the World Health Organization, 80%. 80%.
Okay, so what's the solution? How do you change the program? How do you change the garment? How do you get this new self-image?
Okay, so again, I'm going to quote from this book, Psychocybernetics. What I tell my clients that come to me in the new year, we want to work on a set of assumptions, all right? A set of assumptions. So our mind, and he calls it the success mechanism, because we all have genius within us. We all have a success mechanism within us. It is goal oriented. So it's like a torpedo. It needs a target. And it is already in existence in actual or potential form. So we must just accept that as a belief. That's it. And it operates by steering you to the goal already in existence or discovering something that's already in existence. So that would be your optimal health. So working under that, assumption, that takes a lot of pressure off of people. And number two, The automatic mechanism is teleological. That is, it operates and it by an end result. Okay, so do not be concerned about how you're going to get there. That's not your job. Your job is to train your mind, discipline your mind, and know that it's operated, that it's already a built-in mechanism towards an end result. And number three is do not be afraid of making mistakes or temporary failure. I mean, you are putting a new patch on and you learn a new skill, and there's going to be times like it's just the law of rhythm. You're going to have ups, you're going to have downs, and it's just part of the process. And so many people get discouraged. That's why this is where the 80% comes in, that they are seeing mistakes and they're seeing failures. And then that self-image, that old garment is like, see, I told you. You tried to put on a new garment, positive thinking, it's not working because you're set here, lose weight, gain weight, right? So to be able to have the strength to overcome the temporary failures or mistakes. And, number four, just like I said, a skill is of any kind is accomplished by trial and error, and mentally correcting aim after an error until a successful movement is made. So you're actually training your mind. In a way, the torpedo fails its way to success, right? It keeps course correcting. And number five, and this is the most important one, is to be able to learn to trust. Trust your mind, trust your creative mechanism, trust that there's genius in you, and that the how's not your business. Your business is to show up and to do the internal work along with the external work, I should say. So these are the five guiding principles that I really stress with people that are starting on the new health journey.
Fantastic. We're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just 2 minutes with Leanne Monaghan and delve into these 5 points. And I'm going to try to understand them better. And we'll see if Leanne can explain it such that me and the rest of you get a better sense of what we need to do as we try to change ourselves. Fascinating conversation. Leanne, thank you so much. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're talking about 2025. We're talking about a new you. We're talking about how we keep these New Year's resolutions, or whether the resolutions are actually even helpful, with Leanne Monaghan, president of Staying Alive Fitness. She owns a yoga studio. She does massages. She's got a great business in Erin, Ontario. It's worth the drive to Acton. She keeps on telling me. I've heard that line before. And she's a life coach, and she does these seminars all around Toronto about to find the genius in you. And try to motivate people, incentivize people, inspire people to find their new you. And I thought it was completely appropriate, given that the vast majority of us give up our New Year's resolutions by now. And so I thought it would be helpful to figure out how we keep these. So, Leanne, let's go through, and I can't remember all of them, but your first point was that there is a goal in you, and you've either got to figure it out or somehow discover it, but it's there already. And whether it's a health goal or some other goal, you gotta find it out. So, lots of people have said you gotta have a North Star, you gotta have sort of a vision, you gotta have an objective in life. And what you're saying is it's already there, but you gotta figure it out.
Yes.
How do you figure it out? Do you go to your yoga studio and do a meditation or something? Like, what do you do to figure it out?
You know what? This is a great question. So there's a great essay by Thomas Troward. It's called The Hidden Power Within You. And the way that he describes this, like your North Star or what's meant for you or what's true to you, it's like it's like a well. And once you dig for a well, you don't have to dig anymore. It just keeps coming up. And that's the essence of you. And the way that you know what is the essence of you is when you speak it, it lights you up, it fires you up. For me, I love like talking to you, doing interviews, like, public speaking, I love it. And so I know that that's part of the genius within me, how my message is going to get out. So lots of things scare me, but I know because it fires me up. Like I was up a lot of the night thinking about this interview with you because I'm just so excited and passionate about it. I mean, for me to think, because I know you're, a genius in the finance industry and whatever, all of your other careers. I mean, that is true to who you are. And so it's this essence that's within each and every one of us that it's worth the time and investment in time to really try to figure that out, because that's what's going to fire you up when you get up in the morning to get you to move. So
So you got to find out what you're passionate about. Is that what you're saying?
yes, yes, find out what you're passionate about. And if you want to think about this, like one of the pillars of wealth is actually health. Like that's a pillar of wealth. So thinking about it this way, if I want to do this with my life, and I know that right now you're really wanting to travel a lot. We had this conversation the last time whenever I was on the show. So if you want to do a lot of traveling, you need to be able to walk through the airport. You need to be able to have, the muscles to put your carry on the in the bin. You need to be able to carry 50 pounds with your suitcase, put it on the luggage trolley. I mean, it takes
More than that, I want to trek the Camino de Santiago, this trek in northern Spain. That's what I want to do. I got to get in good shape for that, my dear.
Yes, 100%, 100%. So there is so then you know that you have a built-in mechanism already, that success is already there. So trusting on that, now the things will show up. So meaning, do you need to hire a trainer to be accountable? Do you need to, do 10,000 steps a day or more on the weekend, maybe more? Like what is now the blueprint that I need to put in
Well, that's
place?
interesting because I think it was your second or third point. I can't remember which one. You said, don't worry about how you're going to get there. Just figure out where the there is. Maybe we can come back to that in a second. Let me talk about this. Figure out what it is that is your objective. I've heard a couple of different suggestions of how to best do that. Let me bounce them off you and see what you think. One of them was I did this course as part of my doctorate in business, and it was called The Theory for Intentional Change. And what it said was the most objective way, the best way, the most effective way of figuring out what you want to achieve in your whole life is to write your own obituary. And
Mm-hmm.
write your own obituary the way that you think it would be stated today and how you would like it to be stated. And if there's a difference between what you would like to be said and what you fear would be said, then that tells you that you're not on the right path. But also, when you write down what you hope someone would stand up and say about you, that's probably well describing who you want to be, who you actually really want to be. And I did that, and I found it very powerful. The second objective the second process that I've heard is that Japanese concept called ikigai. And the ikigai is sort of 5 different circles. One is what you're good at, and people can know what their skills are. The second is what you're passionate about. The third is what the world needs more of, and the fourth is what you can get paid for. And that the intersection of the 4 is your ikigai. So that you've got to be passionate about it, but also it's got to be something that you can get paid for and the world needs more of and you're good at. For example, I would love to be a rock star, and I'm passionate about that. I was actually a singer in a rock band in my teenage years, but I wasn't very good. So if you're not very good, that's sort of a passion that you should sing from the stands, not from the stage. But if you can figure out what you're really good at and what you're passionate about and what you can get paid for and what the world needs more of, you've really found the secret. And I found that a helpful process to go through. And then the third one is the idea of just putting it up on the wall. And once you put it up on the wall, the vision becomes far more real and concrete, particularly if you can do it with a picture or something that really motivates you. What do you think of those 3 ways of trying to figure out what that, whatever you call it, your North Star, your objective, your passion? What do you think of those?
I love each one of those, and I've used each one of those myself. So we're on the same path, but everyone has a different way of learning and connecting with their purpose and their passion and what they can get paid for. So, trying all three of those methods and seeing which one really resonates with you, or all three of them do. I know all three of them have with me. And these are really powerful exercises. And I really think that having the vision board is paramount because you're seeing it all of the time. So you're using your senses, your sight, seeing it all the time, even if it's just like you're quickly just walking by it. What happens over time is that then that just becomes part of your subconscious programming, right? And then it starts to change your behavior. So this is why the how isn't your business. It just starts to show up. And without getting too like woo woo without the cuckoo, it's part of the manifestation process, right? The first two that you talked about were more left brain. I mean, yes, you need to use intuition and your imagination when you're going through, the obituary and the ikigai. I'm sorry if I'm saying it wrong. So those two, you're using more of your left brain. Yes, you're using imagination and you're following your intuition. The vision board, that's like the birth of the first two. Put it up on your wall and just, have a look at it every day. And so, yeah, I love these methods, and I, strongly suggest that who's ever listening, give it a try because these are very powerful exercises. Yeah.
Okay, but then number two was you don't have to worry about how you're going to achieve it. You just to do it. And you just mentioned that again. However, you also said you need a blueprint, you need a plan, you need to, and everyone, I think you do need to think about how you actually achieve whatever it is you want. So
This is
why
great.
explain the second point about don't be worried about how you're going to get there.
Oh, you know what? This is a great question. So, whenever you set a goal, so if I may, I'm just going to use me as an example. All right. Last week, whenever you and I connected, my goal was to do X amount of reach outs because I want to be able to fill my events, meet the genius in you. So that's what I want. That's my goal. What do I need to do? I need to do X amount of reach outs in a day. So, you know what? I thought it would be really fun to have you come to an event. So I reached out to you. Immediately, you're responding back. I'm going to be out west next week, but you know what? This would be a great topic for us to talk about. Now, that's what I mean. The how's not my business, right? I'm just
Just happens.
action, reaction. And so the more that you take action towards your goal within a blueprint, right? Within a funnel, parameters, I wasn't worried about an outcome. And then I got something even, thank you for this opportunity today. So that's what I'm talking about. I didn't have a goal to be on your show today. It just happened. And it's because action, reaction. I'm passionate. I'm locked into that goal. I want to help people. And so that's an example of me last week of how that worked. Does that help you? Does that explain it?
It does. It was Woody Allen, and he may not be the best person to quote, but Woody Allen who said 80% of life is just showing up. And I think that's true. Too many of us don't even bother showing up. And so whether it's at events or whether it's at the job or whether it's with our family or whatever it is, I think you got to show up. You got to be there, and then things happen and opportunities create themselves, and you bump into people. I'm a firm believer in the power of coincidences, but you've got to be in the flow of what's going on to allow yourself those coincidences of bumping into people or interacting with people and getting some positive interaction. So I understand that. I still think you need to, I am going to get up early and write, or I am going to get up early to go to the gym. So you still need a blueprint, I think,
Yes.
of how you're going to get there. You still need a to-do list. And, coming back to that course I took on the theory of intentional change, they really talked about that one of the keys was writing down the things that you needed to achieve to meet your goal, but then reevaluating whether on a regular ongoing basis whether it had actually worked, and modifying that. Too many people just sort of set their blueprint or their plan of action, but don't come back and assess whether they actually did the things, whether they did them right, whether they need to do them more, do them less. It's a cycle that you've got to go through of reassessing your strategies.
That's right, because some of them don't work. The goal doesn't change, but maybe the blueprint does.
Okay, the third one was
Okay.
don't be afraid of failure, I think you said.
Yes, that's right. Or making mistakes or temporary failure. Yeah.
But everyone's afraid of failure.
Okay. I'm going to quote Maxwell Maltz on this one. All servo mechanisms, and in number one, that the number one guiding principle is knowing that there's a success mechanism that's built in you, it's built in me, it's built in all of your listeners, it's built in everyone. All servo mechanisms achieve a goal by negative feedback or by going forward, making mistakes, and immediately course correcting. So how does that one land?
I like that negative feedback. So it's that line about you don't learn from successes, you learn from failures. That's how you improve yourself.
Yeah. Like I said, a torpedo doesn't just go to its target, it course corrects. It fails its way to its target. And it doesn't mean that it's a failure, but it's analyzing the negative feedback, and then it course corrects, it goes forward, goes off course, analyzes the negative feedback, course corrects, gets back on course.
So lots of people don't try because they're fear of failure. What do you say to them? Just don't worry about it. Don't worry, be happy. Kuna Matata.
You're funny. No, I'll back it up a step, and I'll get curious, like why asking great questions. I'm not going to come up with the answer for you. It's through a series of asking intentional questions that that the person who I'm asking the questions to, the answer gets revealed to them. So it's a different process. So I'm not going to say, oh, hey, you know what? I'm afraid to start, Leanne. I failed so many times before. I don't know how I'm going to do this. How do I course correct? And then I'll start to ask questions like, well, why do you think, you're going to fail at it this time? And then it's through the questioning process that the answer actually reveals itself. And does that make sense to you? Like, I'm not going to go raw, because I don't believe, like, there's some fallacies in the personal development field that they sell you on this idea that you can do, have anything that you want. And it sets up a lot of people for failure.
Well, I really didn't like that book or that film, The Secret, because it said all you got to do is dream of it and it'll come true. I don't believe that.
That's why I say you're exactly right. You need to have the blueprint. You need to have a series of steps to get there.
You do the work.
Do the work. Absolutely. Absolutely. But understanding that failure is part of the process. And, it's what's your relationship with failure? Does failure stop you right in your tracks? And then now you're limiting yourself to the potential, like the genius in you that actually resides there? And, going deeper into what's your relationship with failure? I actually love to fail now. I love it because it gives me feedback to where I need to go.
A lot of people are afraid of public failure, and I think that is understandable, but I also think that really helps you. And I like the idea of how important commitment is to achieving your goals. And when you actually publicly, even if it's just to your family or a couple of friends, admit what your objective is, what your goal is, then your commitment to achieving it goes up dramatically because you don't want public failure. And so that the failure, number one, can teach you a lot, but then also it can ensure your commitment to that goal, 10 times more than you otherwise would have had if you hadn't publicly committed to achieve something.
That's right. So I always say you put yourself on the hook whenever you publicly admit it. Yeah. Very important.
I had an objective when I was in my MBA, my master's, that I put up on the wall. So I didn't tell everyone about it, but anyone that came to my house, to my apartment, and saw the wall above my office desk would have seen it. And I think that that public commitment, even if it was just to a small group of people, it really put me on the hook.
Lights a fire underneath you, and yeah,
And I
giddy up.
achieved, which was rewarding. Do you teach this in your Find the Genius in You? Find the Genius in You. What's that song? And ever since you've said that, Find the Genius in You, I've been thinking about what that song.
Well, I guess when you run it through AI and a song will come up, I'm sure that these
No,
days.
there is something about find the something in you, find the genius.
Well,
What
there you go. Thank you.
what is this? What you teach at the
It
Find the
is.
Genius in You?
It is. So that's the
Find the
brand.
music in you. That's it. Find the music in you. Find the music in you. What? Who's that song by? It's a great song too.
Yes, 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 yes. We're in the same age group, so I know what song you're talking about. It's because it's not a current song, it's an older song, right? From the 70s or 80s. Anyway, we'll figure it out, Brian.
PKD? I don't know.
I
So
don't know.
is this what you teach
Yes, it is. It is. So the brand is Meet the Genius in You because that's what I believe that is there for everybody. Okay, so here's my North Star. Here is my passion. Here is my purpose, Brian. So my goal is to help as many people as I can get unstuck and introduce them to the genius in them so that they can live their life on their terms, healthy, happy, and prospering. So there you go. That's my North Star. That's what gets me out of bed. That's my external purpose. And so that's the brand. And every month I have a different topic that leads you to meeting the genius in you. So this month it is understanding how the mind works so that you can achieve success. And of course it's January, so we're going to be gearing it more towards your health goals. But that's what I do every month. I free lectures, like you said, throughout Toronto. I just want to help as many people get unstuck and introduce them to the inner genius within them.
and if people want to check out your calendar of where those seminars are, how do they do that? What's the website to go to?
They're up on Eventbrite, and you can just Google in my name and Meet the Genius in You, and you can sign up for the events. And next month, I'm going to be doing Would You Like You If You Met You? It's Valentine's next month. Isn't that a great question, Brian? Would you
Yes.
like you if you met you?
Oh God.
I think this is another discussion next
I
month.
think so too.
Yeah, would you like you if
We got to take a break. That's a great way to transition away from that conversation. We've got to take a break for semesters. We're going to come back in 2 minutes with Leanne Monaghan talking about find the genius in you, figure out what your real goals are. And we've talked about, I think it was 7 different steps. And step number 1 was the goal is there. You got to figure out what that goal is, but the goal is in you, and you got to figure out what that goal, that passion is. Number 2 is don't worry about the steps. The steps will make themselves obvious to you as you go through the process. And number 3 was don't be worried about failure. Just keep on trying, and that you're going to learn from failure, and that failure is how you learn. We're going to come back after 2 minutes and talk about the rest of the steps. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. We're talking about 2025 and how we start out 2025 the best we possibly can with Leanne Monaghan, who is just you do everything, don't you? Like, you've got a yoga studio, you do massages, you do meditations, you do speaking, you do coaching, you do everything.
Well, it comes with age, right? It comes with age, yes. Yeah.
How did you get into this business?
Oh my goodness. Oh, this is a great question. You know what, Brian? To be perfectly honest, every career found me. I
So
wasn't.
that goes back to your second one about don't worry about the steps. They'll make
Yeah,
themselves obvious to you.
I was just country girl, a bit of a redneck with my upbringing, and I just had a dream. I was just like, I loved horses, so my first career was in the horse business. I loved the healing arts. I love fitness. Then went back to school, became a massage therapist because of the healing work that I used to do with the racehorses. And then I'm like, massage isn't 100% where the landing is. It's something else is there. Then I met a beautiful, beautiful woman, and she was like, Leanne, you need to have a place where you can be, teach this to people. And that's how Staying Alive Fitness was born. And Brian, I'm going to tell you, I was bankrupt. There was one day that I didn't even know how I was going to put food on the table for my kids. And here I am. I had a dream. Oh, Acton needs something more because, I had went through cancer, a single mom, and had all of these outside circumstances that were happening to me, but they were actually happening for me. And then here I am 20 years later at Staying Alive Fitness. So, and then with the coaching, that came at a point where I was just about ready to give up. I was done with the business. I was done with my relationships. I just wanted to go out west and be with my boys and ski in BC because they lived on a mountain in BC. And then a friend of mine said, Leanne, don't make any rash decisions for 1 year. And then I saw a friend of mine, and she just started to blossom, and I thought, I want me some of that. And she had gotten into personal development, and then that changed the trajectory of my life. So again, you just have these passions like that Thomas Troward article that I'm talking about, the hidden power within. So these were like my essence of my being bubbling up. I knew they were there. I didn't know how I was going to accomplish them, but then boom, 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 these opportunities came to me. So there you have it. So thank you for asking that question, but I chose none of this. I didn't go out to be a coach. I didn't go out to open a gym, that's for sure. I didn't, think I would have a horse business, but I did.
So it is that number two about trusting that the steps along the way will sort of show up in your life.
Yeah.
It's showing up. It's getting out there so opportunities can come to you. It's not lying on your couch. It's getting out there and seeing if those collisions happen. I really believe in that. You gotta show up in life. You gotta make yourself open for those opportunities. They're gonna to come in your way. So we were talking about these 5 steps. Steps number 1 was find that passion with you, find that genius in with you, find that goal within you, that it's there and you just need to uncover it. Number 2 is don't worry about the steps. The steps will come to you, but that ultimately you need to still develop those steps. Number 3 was don't worry about failure. Number 4 was something about what? Trial and error?
Skill learning of any kind is accomplished by trial and error. So again, it ties into number 2, mentally correcting after an error until a successful movement or motion or performance has been achieved. So again, it ties in with number 3. We just have to accept. So say, for example, somebody's new here on the health journey. It's a new skill to be learned, how to properly, build muscle, how to properly, what are the steps to run a 5K from couch to 5K. And someday you might get injured along the way, and it's just trial and error as you mentally correct after every mistake. And you know what, Brian, to me, that's building resilience and that muscle within you that you can face the failures head on. I mean, I actually now embrace it. Not like there are sometimes I'm like mortified by some of the mistakes, and that still happens, but I can get out of it very quickly. And then it's like, I'm still doing trial and error, even with the coaching business and getting out there and getting in front of people. Some things work, some things don't work. So
I interviewed someone just last week who lost a significant amount of weight, got really in shape, and did so after some traumatic problems in her life. So she really had the incentive to do so. And what she said is write down what you eat and what you do every day, because of exactly what you're saying, is that you'll learn the things that don't work for you from a health, from a nutrition, from a weight standpoint, and also from a fitness standpoint. The days that you feel like you've improved and the days that you haven't. So
Yeah.
just sort of recording so that you can do the trial and error better. Sounds good. Your fifth one was trust the process.
So you've got to trust the process, and Maxwell Mulch calls it trust your creative mechanism, which he's calling the mind. Trust the process. And this is what I find with a lot of the people that I work with, so that you trust the process to do its work and you don't jam it. Like you don't put a kink in the hose by becoming too concerned or too anxious as to whether it will work or not, or by attempting to force, because force negates with too much conscious effort. So there's a beautiful balance here that, and this is the work. You let it work, and then, but you can't jam it up with like, oh my God, my results aren't here. Every day you're on the scale. Oh my God, my results aren't here. You're jamming it. You're jamming up your creative mechanism when you start to think like that. And, and you're forcing it with conscious effort. So that's the work too.
That's a great objective. And fantastic 5 steps. And the fact that it can't just be a patch on a garment, it's got to be a change of that garment. You really got to think it through, I think, as a helpful way to think things through. Thank you. I appreciate that. I got to ask you before we leave, what about this Valentine's Day session? What is this? Do you
Oh,
like yourself?
yeah, that's the question that I pose with this master class. I think I'm going to do it both in person and on Zoom as a workshop. Would
Who's going
you?
to want to admit that they don't like themselves?
Oh, heck, I did it right away. Because I was just like, I was caught like a deer in a headlights when somebody asked me that. And I'm like, holy crap on a cracker. That's pretty intense question. And I couldn't even answer it. And then I got curious. So first of all, my initial response was like, failure, failure, Leanne can't even answer the question. And then I'm like, no, I'm going to take a step back. And I got curious about it. And then again, it came back to this work. And would you like you if you met you? So Brian, there you go. That's my
Do you,
question to
do you,
you. And you
do you
think
do
about
this
it.
in a group session where you got to admit your weaknesses and failures to other people?
No, 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 no. I would never do that. I wouldn't do that publicly, that's for sure. But again, I
So how do
pose.
you do a speech on this or a session on this? You just talk about the process, or you just get people to write it down while they're in a group session, or what do you do?
Both. So it's like workshop style. I'll pose the question to you. You have a few, and especially if it's on Zoom, I get the music going. You can go off camera and you can do some journaling and just to unlock the genius within you, because that's what it is. That's what it is. And then come back and I'll do a little bit of teaching and again the steps of would you like you if you met you? And now, if you ask me that question right now, I'd go, oh yeah, that's a heck yes. I don't want to swear. Yeah, I
So
do.
do you think people are ready for that?
If they're not, that's okay. If you're open to it, like, come on. It's to me, it's the keystone. We're talking about the mechanism, but it's to me the keystone of
What do
living.
you mean keystone?
So a keystone is, well, you know what a keystone is. It's the stone that everything else is built on in a wall, right? That's the keystone. And you have to understand yourself. You have to be able to let go of a lot of things in the past. There's a lot of forgiveness so that you can actually say, like, answer the question, would you like you if you met you? And that's a easy yes for people to say. So,
And so if people say they don't, what do you do?
well, this is the work. My mission is to sell you on the idea that there's genius in you. Like we're all perfect at our essence. That's what I
This is
believe.
sort of like my idea about write the obituary. It's would you want to go on a date with yourself? Would you want to date you? Would you like to meet you? It's sort of like the obituary test is that compare that versus the person you would like to go on a date with, the person you would like to meet.
Hmm. There you go. Thank you. You're giving me great ideas too.
What an interesting, and so you're going to do this around Toronto prior to Valentine's Day or on Valentine's
Yes.
Day itself.
Yeah. I'm going to do a 3-day workshop on Zoom so that we end it on Valentine's Day, and it'll be in the day, so that you can go out, because Valentine's Day is actually on a Friday this year. So heck, it's going to be wild in the restaurants, but that, you know, it's not about it, it's so that on Valentine's Day you can say, you know what? I love me. I like me. I like hanging around with me.
So
So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
this has been a really interesting conversation, Leanne. I really appreciate you joining us. Tell me, you've had your ups and downs, it sounds, in business and in life.
Hmm.
Does everything you've been talking about work? Does it actually work?
Yes. You have to be committed to the process. You have to be committed to you. So, Brian, I'm going to share something, and this is again on being absolutely vulnerable to all your listeners and everything. So, I told you what my external purpose was, to help people get unstuck and meet the genius in them. My internal purpose, and this is what I think every person should consider, my internal purpose, because of things that have happened to me. I've had a very colorful life. That my internal purpose is that I want to be able to be the person that stops the generational trauma that's come through my family, because I have a granddaughter and there's another one on the way. So I commit to being the best version of myself. I put myself on the hook for a lot of this deep inner work so that I can show up authentically for everybody on the outside, but I can be authentic with myself so that I'm an example for her and I don't repeat the mistakes that I've done throughout my life, because I want to course correct for her. So I continue to do the work on myself. I continue to study myself. And it's not from an egotistical point of view. It's from a point of view that I want to clear up my mistaken identity.
I do not believe you're a grandmother. That's impossible.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I'm Nanny Leanne. Yeah, yeah, I am.
Well, if you're a grandmother, you're doing something right.
Well, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
What a great story. What a great 5 points of let's review them really quickly. So number one is find that goal. Number two, don't worry about the path. It'll show it up in your life. Number three is don't be worried about failures. Number four is trial and error. And number five is trust the process. And we go to Leanne Monaghan or Staying Alive Fitness to find out more. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Leanne, thank you so much. We're going to take a final break and come back just after. And I'm going to give you a couple of my thoughts on this topic because I want all of us to have the best 2025 we could possibly have. Leanne Monaghan, thanks so much.